U.S. threatening sanctions over Chinese AI models over IP theft. I mean, is anybody surprised by that at this point? I don't think so. But really, the interesting part, which is why I'm bringing this story up, is essentially so Alibaba, DeepSeek, the Kimi, all of these Chinese models, which are coming in at a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the cost of the frontier models, are competing at the same, if not slightly better levels in some use cases when it comes to giving the output that people really need. I'm interested in knowing your thoughts. Like, do you feel like we will have a massive shift in the later half of this year to completely going open source Chinese models all the way? Because Anthropic, OpenAI are sitting on IPO hopes, and they're delaying and delaying and delaying it because they think, okay, there is still growth to be squeezed, and we don't want to go in a market that completely decimates our stock.
I mean, basically, yes. I think at the end of the day, like, I mean, I'm American. I do love my country, but at the end of the day, like, what is fast? What is cheap? It is a big problem because fundamentally, and then also what does the thing I needed to do the fastest and the best? And frankly, like, I was pretty frustrated because I feel like the past couple of weeks we've heard so much, or past couple of months, right? Everyone's like, oh, Fable, and they're like, this thing's hacking the government and it's so dangerous. And I understand they need to do that to drive up, their valuations and make them seem really smart and competitive. But as we've seen, like, Fable came out and then OpenAI dropped, was it like 5.6 Soul, whatever you call it, right? And then Kimi just dropped, and then I think like Alibaba just dropped their thing, and who cares? Like,
Yeah.
does the work it needs it to do. There are security concerns, but I think, there are ways to, I think, counteract that and be careful about what kind of information you're feeding into your AI models. There's ways to anonymize and kind of gatekeep that in the right ways. But fundamentally, like, I think this is a question of, I mean, we're in a new Cold War. I don't think that's new to anyone here, but that's just the reality.
Paulina, because I remember on the last show, she said that she's using local models and her fiance is really intrigued by that. What have you seen?
I mean, first of all, I'm not using Fable for anything unless it would be like a one-shot build that I would need to do ASAP. I wouldn't really use it. For other things, like I use Opus for all the planning. So I would basically brain dump all of my ideas and then the Opus would create a plan. But then I will build it out with like JLM or Kimi. And I found that for these tasks, they are sufficient when it comes to, because I, work with copy a lot. Nothing comes close to working with copy as Opus does, but I like Opus 4.6 more than 4.7, for example, or 4.8. I think they're really dumb sometimes. Honestly, I don't know like why. But 4.6 works just great for me for these tasks. And I think it's a matter of just testing out different models for your workflow and figuring out what works, because sometimes like I have an interface where I can switch between the models quite easily. Opus, Codex, whatever, Chinese models.
Vic, what about you? Do you feel like people have caught up to the fact that we should be all using open source Chinese models currently?
I don't think people even know that this is happening. I think like this is an echo chamber. We live in a bubble. I think the average person is still so overwhelmed by the technology. They just need someone to come in and be like, hey, this is how you download it. You need the desktop version. Here's how you prompt. Here's how you think methodically about what you're asking it to do. Here's how you give yourself security measures so you're not giving away your own personal IP and you're not putting you or your company at risk of copyright infringement inadvertently because of the fact that you're using these products. They have no idea that this is happening. I think for the average American person, all they hear every day is Claude, ChatGPT. They have no idea that there's open source models. I don't think they even understand what open source means and what the value of that is. That's my hot take.